Another day in the books. It gets to a point where you got to push through, and it's all about just getting a bunch of film on tape, and then learning from what you did right and learning from what you did wrong. So today we got about 50-some team plays, and we'll be able to learn from it. That's for sure.
What have you been learning so far?
Just who they are and what they're capable of, and assessing where we're at with the installation process, what we're having success with, what we're not having success with, mainly from a communication standpoint. Continue to teach them what to do, and then once they figure out what to do, then you start honing in on getting them to understand how to get better at it.
Geno Smith looked like he was communicating a lot more with his players. Have you seen a growth in that just over 1 week?
Yeah, I'm pleased with what his body language is. He bounces around pretty good, and the guys look to him, and if it's not going great, he's the guy that is going to be able to kind of get him going on the right track. So the way he's communicating with guys and the way his bounces and his body language is pretty good at this point. It's got a long ways to go. Obviously, only after 6 practices, we're far from it looking the way it's going to look in September. But it's all about just getting the plays running and learning from it.
What about Paul Millard? It looks like he's been developing pretty well.
He's getting there. I mean, he's overwhelmed. We've went through the offense twice, but he's somewhat overwhelmed. I mean, we're talking about a guy that should be looking forward here pretty quick to go to the prom. So I mean. He's young and he's green, and he doesn't have the game experience that Geno has, and he doesn't have the confidence that Geno has. But he doesn't get frustrated. He makes mistakes, and he just plays the next play.
How's J.D. Wood doing?
Very spotty. Made a couple of plays in team today, which was good to see. He's a guy that looks good at times, and then you forget he's there for the whole practice. So he needs to learn some consistency, both on and off the field.
What about the running backs? A week ago, you said there was 8 bodies. No one really stood out. Has anyone stood out since then?
Trey's getting better. He's the one to me that looks like he's improved. Harquit he's been consistent. I don't even know if he can talk. He doesn't ever say anything. You ask him a question, it's either this way or it's this way. But he's been steady. He's been consistent. So those 2 guys have been doing a good job. And then the Roberts kid is a guy that we didn't know what we had with him, obviously, because he's a high school kid as well. But he's shown some things to be pretty good. Those the 2 big fullback kind of guys. Those guys are. Playing pretty good too, Kovac and Lindemood. Those guys are not scared to mix it up, which is exciting to see.
How about the offensive line?
Still trying to figure out who they are, and still trying to figure out who does what well. We got about 10 bodies that we're rotating in, and that's going to be a lot longer process to figure out who those guys are and where they fit, especially because we're not playing with a couple of them right now due to injuries. So really we're trying to just piece it together and teach them what to do, work on a bunch of individual technique with them, and then throughout camp in August we're going to probably move some people around to figure out what the best 5 are.
Do you feel like you're getting more consistent, or is it still just as spotty as it was?
It's real spotty. Yeah, it's real spotty. I mean, we'll try to get a little bit better every period, but it's incredibly spotty, and will continue to be for quite a while.
Is there anything holding McCartney back at all, or is he progressing?
Young, he's somewhat inconsistent as well, which happens with younger guys. This is still his first year on campus. So he does some things that looks good, and then he does some things that looks bad, and needs to continue to develop and continue to gain confidence, and as he does that, he'll have a chance to make some plays.
Athletically, he seems to be.
Athletically, he's got it.
Yeah,
athletically, he's got it.
You talked about Paul. How about Brian? How's he progressing in terms of trying to get the offense?
He's we're repping Brian a little bit more right now. It's all about being able to communicate a little bit better. He was communicating better Brian was a couple days ago, so we decided to give Paul those reps, which at some point then we'll put Brian back in there and we'll see if he's been paying attention.
Brian Clark says you've been using him in a few different roles out of the backfield. Do you plan on using him for his versatility, or is he mainly going to fit that tailback mold?
We're still evaluating him. He's a guy that can carry the ball. He's a guy that can block. The better he gets at both those aspects, the more he's going to play. If he puts the ball on the ground again, he's not going to play at all.
Still an issue then?
Well, I've seen it twice, so I'm not making things up.
Because he hasn't had a chance at a third time.
Well, he may not get one either. Depends what mood we're in on next Wednesday.
Did you make an effort, or did coaches tell him to, try to get his weight down a little bit, because I know he's a much trimmer. He looks like a ball of dynamite this spring compared to last spring.
Yeah, he's improved himself, and just in the off season, with being in that weight room there, working and all that stuff. I mean, he's improved his body. So we didn't say anything to him. I mean, we didn't know, what these guys need to do until we get out here and get our hands on them. So we don't get too worried about how much they weigh and all that stuff. It's more about production and what they do well, So,
Danny, you don't have a lot of room for a lot of backs in your offense. It seems like you're versatile enough to use a lot of different guys, and you have a lot of small guys, you got a lot of big guys, you got some fullback types. Do you have a preference on what kind of guys you use back there?
Geez, we're repping like 8 of them. We don't have, I don't know if I understand the question.
I'm saying you've got little scat back types. You've got Sean Alston and Ryan Clark types. You've got true fullback types.
Yep. Got a lot of them, and they all have an opportunity to play. It comes down to the 3 things. It comes down to being able to be productive when you run, be able to be productive when you block, and be able to be productive when you have the ball in your hands. And regardless if the guy weighs 160 or 260, if it's productive, it's productive. So, we've had guys that are 185 pounds that are our best pass protectors, so they get more reps. So it's all about production, not body types. We got enough bodies that we'll continue to rep them and work them. We put in the 3-back system so we can put a lot of backs out there. We're not running a no-back offense here. Those guys play more than any position on the team with the skill from the skills perspective. So. The more productive those guys get individually, the more reps that they're going to get.
You talked last week about getting some blank stares from the guys, the quarterbacks at times. Are those happening less frequently?
At times, Paul gave me some blank ones today, which is going to happen. They become overwhelmed at times, and they stare. They don't know what to do, which is why we got our graduate assistant up there kind of helping them with some things to be able to keep practicing.
Police retention in general. We talked about the need for them to go from day one to the repetitive of day one this week and retain those things. Did you see what you wanted to see there?
Yeah, for the most part. There's still some little mistakes here and there. We're not at the point where everybody exactly knows what to do. Next week we'll be a little closer to that. And once we get to that point, we can start working on the technique aspects of everything and spending more time in the film room on addressing techniques and that stuff.
How much time do you get to spend on those sort of things now?
None right now, because we're still trying to teach them what to do. And once we get to the point where we're not teaching them what to do anymore, we can actually, spend a lot of time in the classroom on, the fundamentals of the technique aspects of what we're trying to get them to do, which makes them better players. Quit thinking and play fast, quit thinking and play hard. The only way you can do that is if you truly understand what you're doing. That just takes some time.
Compared with other places that you've been installing the offense, after 2 weeks, where does it compare to?
I think we're a little ahead of schedule. We've made some adjustments with how we install it, over the last couple stops. So I think the adjustments that we've made makes a little more sense to the guys, to the point to where they're picking up probably a little bit quicker than where I've been.
So where do you expect to be by the time the spring game comes around?
Well, how many people will be here? Any idea?
$10 a ticket.
Was it? Did they charge last year?
$5.
$5. Now it's 10.
You get about 15.
About 15,000. Well, we got to make them people happy, so hopefully we can take snaps. Hopefully we get the snaps and we can complete some balls and we can block some people to where we can get a few first downs. And I don't know how you address that. You just run plays. We basically treat it like a game, basically treat it like a practice, to the point to where, you know, our goal at the end of the spring game is to have that be a productive practice, to where, you know, we can have some film and it makes sense and these guys will be able to learn from it.
They're going to see your three-back offense you mentioned a little bit. It's fairly unique. It's not option-oriented, wishbone, but it uses a twist on it. Tell me about that a little bit and what you've done with it to make it, how that works. I'm not asking offense, but in your version of this.
Well, I put it in last year to be able to throw the ball to a couple of receivers we felt were pretty good. And then the more we did it, the better we liked it, because it creates some angles and creates some gaps that you don't get with a true tight end. Plus, we don't have a whole lot of true tight ends running around here. So those body types are easier to find, and you can be creative and use a little motion and move them around to kind of give you an advantage.
Is it based in like option theory there? Because you can.
It's where it came. The Air Force has been doing it for years. I mean, they're a big option football team, but we're not going to put the option in.
No, I figured that. But when the blocking, the way you can spring guys, numbers.
It's different. I mean, it's different. We can go inside and talk for the rest of the day for like 7 hours for me to explain what the blocking stuff and the schemes and all that stuff are. But basically, we can do what we do in one back and what we do in two back. We can put a third one in there and do the same thing.
When you said to throw it to guys that were the running backs you thought could be good receivers, was it guys you could slip, so like move into the backfield, make it mismatch?
Haven't done any of that. No.
But last year,
haven't done any of that. No, we had a couple of wideouts.
Yep.
You know that were good. Obviously, the Blackman kid ended up winning the Blitnikoff award. Had another guy that we thought was better after spring ball, and you know, so we came up with this three-back system to be able to isolate those guys on the outside. It's easier for the quarterbacks to see if there's man one-on-one coverage when they're all packed in, as opposed to, you know, being spread and those guys being able to disguise a bunch of stuff.
Do you have personnel here that you could do similar better?
Yeah, I mean, we got the personnel to be able to run three backs, since we got about 9 of them on scholarship right now. You know, plus,
you have receivers.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, we got a few. I don't know. We're still assessing these guys. Not one of them has stood out consistently yet. You know, and we're not very deep at slot receiver, which when you put more backs in the game, you take those slot guys off the field, which allows us to get through practice based on the fact that we only got a few on scholarship.
Are you still learning what you can do with it?
Yeah, we experiment.
Right.
And half the time it looks like crap if we don't do it again. And every now and then we may stumble upon something that makes sense and implement it.
Tyler Urban, when he heard you were coming on staff, he was a little bit worried how you would fit into your offense. What did you say to him, and what do you say to guys in that position where they're not sure how they'll fit into this new scheme?
Did he tell you his name?
No, he just said he was worried.
Is that rumors? Is that a rumor? Or he said he was worried?
When he said when he got back from winter break, he said he was a little worried
about
your offense.
He's done. If anybody's been consistently productive at the receiver position, it's been him. You know, and I just told him, like, if you're a good player, then we'll find a way to get you on the field. So just work hard and put a smile on your face, and you know, once we get out there, you understand what we're talking about. So he's been productive, and he's been consistent.
When you mean consistent, what types of things has he done that other
He caught the ball well. You know, he hasn't dropped many balls, and he's always in the right spot. And even if he's covered, he'll be able to body a guy and make a catch. You know, so been happy with his development at this point.
Have you had bigger guys work out of that position in the past?
Yeah, we did the same thing 3 years ago when I went to Houston. We had a guy that was about the same body type. He was 6'3", 240 pounds. And it caught like 20 balls his whole career in 3 years, and lined him up in the same spot that Tyler's playing right now, and the guy caught about 80 balls his senior year. So you can be, you don't have to. It's not all the slot receiver guys isn't all about speed. I mean, you know the bigger bodies can block backers better, and they can body people and position themselves to catch the ball in traffic.
Do they get mismatches in that spot just because, like you said, a bigger body, or they lined up against guys that they can take advantage of mismatches at times?
Not really, because they're usually those are linebacker types that's over them, which is the same type body. That's a lot where the spread. A lot of people started using the faster inside receivers 20 years ago, 25 years ago, in the run and shoot and a lot of this stuff when it started popping up. And the reason they would put the faster, smaller guys in the game is to create mismatches. Well, if about the time you start doing that, they just start matching you with. Defense is smart enough to catch up on that stuff. So it's hard to create a matchup on the inside, because if you put bigger people in, they put bigger people in. If you put smaller people in, they put smaller people in.
On a side note, Pat's been around a few practices, just coming in, chit-chatting with you guys. Is there a chance GA or any type of thing like that in the future?
I haven't talked to him about any of that. I just met him a few days ago. Seems like a good guy.
Today's practice seemed a little bit less physical than yesterday's. Were you glad to see that?
No.
I didn't know, because there were a lot of big hits yesterday. And
the intensity wasn't as good today as it was yesterday, which you want an intense practice every day if guys know how to practice that way, which we're still learning how to practice that way. And the more intense and the more physical it is, the better you're going to get. And today wasn't as good as yesterday when it comes to the intensity level. It doesn't mean we didn't get anything done, but the intensity wasn't there. If you can figure out why, then you can let us know and we'll try to fix it. But it happens throughout the course of 15 practices in spring. You're going to have some days where they're revved up, and you're going to have some days where they're not. Today was the day where they weren't exactly revved up, but we still had a productive practice.
They almost too revved up yesterday, not in full pads, and they're hitting each other like that.
That's no big deal. When you have pants on or you don't have pants on, you're only talking about one pad over the knee. Doesn't really change how you practice.
Thank you.
Your offensive linemen were mentioning yesterday that Bill's coaching style, he's able to go from ultra intense screaming at him, then 2 seconds later back into teaching, which is obviously what you're looking for in an offensive line coach. But can you speak to a little bit about how he's able to balance that and the effectiveness that he's had with the guys over the years?
I think that's a quality every good coach has. You have to, and I think that almost everybody on this field right here possesses that quality. You got to be able to be intense and get after them and get their attention. If you're Mr. Nice Guy all the time, they're going to walk all over you. If you're so intense that you lose your wits about you and you're not paying attention to what's going on, then you got a problem. So you got to be able to remain calm and remain focused and see what's happening, but you also better be able to get their attention if you need to.
Thanks.
All right, appreciate it.